Hey, Andrew, wake up from your jar.
What? Huh?
Hey.
I'm in a jar.
Yeah, we're both in jars.
What the?
Yeah, Pretorius is moving us again.
What? I thought we had a good setup there.
No, well, we did, but
I thought he liked our podcast.
No, he did. That's why we both are in his jars, in two separate jars. I have to yell at you.
Yeah.
Don't wake up the king.
What? A king?
Yeah, there's a king, a ballerina.
Well, the ballerina I knew about.
Yeah. It's so hot in here.
These jars are a little stuffy. Mm-hmm. Oh wait, there's headphones here.
No, hold on.
Maybe if we put on the headphones,
okay.
we can hear each other better.
Oh, hey.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, okay. Are you good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, because this is Nothing New, a Remake podcast. Hello, I am Justin Quizon, one of your hosts, and with me in his jar is...
Hi, I'm Andrew Linde.
And the way I didn't want to do Pretorius impression...
Oh.
I didn't want to. I'm like, oh, that might be too on the nose for me. And I didn't want to, do a bad Karloff. So
you don't want to do it's welcome to a new world of gods and podcasters.
Yeah, well, you just did, so thank you. If you couldn't tell already, we are diving back into the world of Universal monster movies. And of course, before we go on, officially announcing who our guests will be, of course, we'll be talking about The Bride of Frankenstein, 1935.
And The Bride, 2026.
Of course, since we're back in the world of Universal Studio Monsters, we clearly cannot come back to this world without returning a previous guest. She was previously on our Wolfman episode of last year. So thank you again for joining us today, Antonia Carlotta.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
But that was kind of interesting with you last year, is that when you had your own Wolfman, that was actually a little bit after the Carl Laemmle period. But we are deep in. This is a different situation.
This is prime Laemmle.
Mm-hmm. If you could, before we jump into our thoughts on Bride of Frankenstein, can you kind of tell? This is again your expertise is this history, of course, for obvious reasons. But if for the audience who aren't aware, briefly kind of explain your kind of connection to the Laemmle world and the Laemmle family and Universal Studios.
Yeah, absolutely. So my great uncle was Carl Laemmle. He was the founder of Universal Studios and, of course, thereby produced pretty much all of their movies from 1912 until 1936. And his son, Junior Laemmle, who's technically a cousin of mine, he took over as head of production at Universal at 21 years old. And Junior Laemmle was really the driving force behind making the Universal monster movies. So Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, The Bride of Frankenstein, that was all Junior Laemmle. And now I have a YouTube channel called Universally Me, which is digging into all of the history of Universal, the Universal monsters, all the old movies, and all my family history.
It's a great channel too, because I've definitely referenced your channel on our Invisible Man episode a couple years back, and of course, we had you come back we had you come in for last year. Before diving into Bride of Frankenstein, what was the vibe of the studio and at this point when they went ahead with a sequel to Wales' first film?
Well, the sequel was many years in the making. Obviously, the first Frankenstein had been such a success, and Universal really wanted to follow that up with a sequel right away. But James Whale in particular was pretty hesitant to make another Frankenstein movie. He kind of thought that he had told everything there was to tell with the Frankenstein story. He also didn't really want to get too pigeonholed in the horror space. So he wanted to go and do other projects. And when he finally agreed to do a sequel, he was still really picky about it. He, turned down a bunch of scripts. There were a bunch of rewrites. It took a really long time, which is why there's like 4 or 5 years between the two films.
Which is interesting. Yeah, Andrew? Yeah.
No, I think, it was probably right of him to kind of hold off. It does, I feel like, why go back? Like, what is the what is the reason to go back to this story and to bring back this character that even in his debut, Karloff, instantly iconic look. And I think about I really enjoy that film Gods and Monsters.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of a fictionalized version of the end of James Whale's life, where Brendan Fraser is his pool man or whatever, which is kind of a little silly, but I think it's like a very interesting way of coming at the idea of legacy and your history and what you're remembered for. But he, I think of in that movie, they give him, it's Ian McKellen plays James Whale, and he has a moment where he's talking to some fan of Frankenstein movies, and he's like, I didn't do any of the others. I did Frankenstein and the Bride. And that's all that's real to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, that's kind of good that he's like a little protective of it. It makes the Bride, this story a little more special, I think.
I mean, The Bride of Frankenstein is probably my absolute favorite. I mean, it's one of my favorite movies in general. It's my favorite Universal monster movie. I just am so happy that James Whale came around to making it, because it did end up being a fantastic film. And actually, I was thinking back to the last time I was on your podcast, I feel like you asked me what remake I would like to see.
Yes.
Or maybe who my favorite monster was. I know I talked about The Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is funny because I was aware a little bit that this movie was, the remake we'll cover later was on the way. But I think even me, I'll kind of say this right now before we jump into both films, but I would say that me and Andrew were both even a little hesitant to do this combo. But I think it became more interesting as the movie was getting closer to release, that we were like, oh, let's just go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, like anything that's The Bride referencing Frankenstein is still obviously in the shadow of the Wales film. So I think it's only fair, even though The Bride is a Warner Brothers film, isn't really connected to any other adaptation of Frankenstein, current or past. It's still obviously in the shadows of James Whale's film. And speaking of, let's just jump straight in to, I think we definitely know your history with it, Antonia, but Andrew, really quick, what was your first experience to Bride of Frankenstein?
I feel like I was a little late to it. As far as Universal Monsters go, it was definitely something where once I saw the film, I didn't know what to expect. I saw it, I mean, probably 10 years ago, but the idea of the bride is in it for such a short amount of time, but also they're using this very interesting storytelling technique where the actress who plays the bride, Elsa Lanchester, is also Mary Shelley.
Put a pin
at
on
the
that.
beginning. I think that's such an interesting way to make use of a dual role, and to have, when you know that the monster character is going to be in it for such a short amount of time, give that actress a little extra to do and have the narrative beginning of the film go back to the origin, go back to the author, which is also a cool way of paying tribute to the original author when you've made, a film that changes so much of the work.
Yeah.
But you still have to say, well, the work wouldn't have existed at all if not for her writing it. And that's basically that first scene of the movie is like the other two characters are like, well, you're so good at writing horror. Oh my goodness. And you're such a little lady and you're so scary. It's like, yes, at the time, that's kind of the way they viewed it. But it's like, it's really cool that she was able to make a story that has transcended and lived on and been told over and over again. And still people find, fresh ways to tell the story. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like I was very late to the bride character, though, at least in the terms of Universal Monsters. I've always said The Creature from the Black Lagoon is my favorite. I watched all of his before I even got to the bride. That's how late I was to the bride. How about you, Justin?
It's funny because it's just, she's so iconic. It's like kind of weird to pinpoint when I actually finally got around to watching the film. I think it probably was in high school when me and my buddy, who's like the horror friend, he's the guy who's super into horror films, we finally one Halloween just said, we're just gonna do the Universal Studio monster movies, and we just like powered through before binging was a thing, in the 90s. we just did like a mini marathon of all of them. And when we did, I was excited to do Frankenstein and Bride, because I did see Frankenstein in a theater when I was a kid. We were lucky. I got to do that. So I was really excited to finally get around the Bride. And I just always remembered how there were so many cool things about the film that had stuck with me, even if I don't remember every detail about the narrative. But also, yeah, the realization that like, oh, she's really in it for like barely in it. But we still visualize her. We still, she's action figures, she's dolls, she's t-shirts, she's tattoos.
And her look is like immortalized in other things too.
Mm-hmm.
Like that huge hair with the lightning bolt pattern, that's just like anytime someone gets struck by lightning in a cartoon.
They look like the Bride with the Bride haircut.
Uh-huh.
Well, even like, not to go into every iteration, but like the iteration of the character is so, that iteration look of the character is so iconic that like down to like the DC's current Creature Commandos series. There's a Bride character, and that's also a interpretation of a character from the comic book, but that Bride character is 100% just like Elsa's version of the character, but with guns. And like she's got like a leather outfit, but the hair still sticks up and still has like that white lightning look, and she's so obviously like, that look is clearly only because of this film. So kind of going into
I just had to Google that. That was really a 1-for-1 match.
So thank Andrew, since you kind of already brought it up, let's just jump straight into like that's such a great setup of starting the movie, especially it's been a couple years since the first one. This is not an era where people would go revisit the 1931 film because they have to either wait for a revival or a screening or etc. So there's not like, let me pop in the film reel to watch the original. So we had to figure out a clever way of, hey, let's look back, kind of remind folks what happened before. And it was such a smart way of doing it, is them deciding, let Mary do it. Let some other people talk about the story and be like, oh, remember when that time, that book still gets to me. It's almost like being like the audience member going like, yeah, you're all still thinking about the 1931 film. And what a clever way of catching us up. And then Mary going, I actually had more to say. And I'm like, oh, let's go. And also,
I do love that, for finding such a creative way to insert what exactly as you said is a necessity. They don't have a VCR. They can't, most theaters aren't necessarily playing the original. So we can have these characters talking about the film, showing some clips and setting us up. I love that opening.
I wonder if that's like one of the earliest times that a film ever did that. Because I remember when we were going through, we did Karate Kid, an episode on Karate Kid.
That's true.
And I watched all of those, and even those as they came out in the like 80s, Karate Kid 2, 3, and 4 like started with like flashbacks of like, okay, remember they were doing the training. Okay, now we can get back into the story. Like this idea of like, we have to make sure the audience has like that reference point, even if they haven't seen the original. Like, you can just come in, watch this film, and be all caught up.
Right. No, 100%. Also, like you said, Andrew,
generally speaking, there weren't a ton of sequels really being made yet. That wasn't even such a common thing in itself. So they were probably, in some form, this must have been experimentation for how to move to a sequel, particularly with some years between it, and help people who are seeing it for the first time, enter the movie being caught up.
That's such a really great point, because it's like we are now steeped in sequels. We're swimming in sequels. We're swimming in number 8s, 7s, 9s, and 10s at this point. That like it's essentially buying a ticket to an episode of a TV show. But like here, you're totally right. Back then, it's like, it's if there was another one, it's kind of rare to say. So the idea that I think that's a good way of looking at it. It's like, it's been like 4 years. We need to probably have people remind them what happened, and especially because it's essentially takes place immediate afterwards. Yeah, like this happens after the burning of the windmill. So it's like, or the mill. It's like, we need to let everyone know like where the creature is currently at. Where's Frankenstein at, and etc. Also, I love Elsa's performance as Mary in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, you're right, Andrew. It's like you got her, but she's not going to do much as the bride. So it's almost like, we're going to give you this really meaty thing in the beginning. Mm. And you're going to be really great to watch in this first chunk of the film.
Yeah, she's so cheeky and she's so fun. And then when you contrast that with how she is as the bride, I mean, she really got to play two completely different roles.
Yes.
I also, something that's different with Frankenstein versus the Bride of Frankenstein is by the time the Bride of Frankenstein comes out, we're in the film censorship and the code is actually being enforced. And James Whale kind of finds a lot of ways around the code. And there are so many, kind of dirty jokes. Like even in this opening, there's references to forsaking marriage and living life like free and open. There's just so much like fun undertone that goes throughout the whole movie. And it starts even in the beginning. Yeah. But I know one thing with Elsa Lanchester is they did have to cut some of her role down because the code said that there was she was showing too much cleavage and it was like too inappropriate.
Wow. It's so funny because we just did Wuthering Heights last month, and Wuthering as a reminder to the listener who hasn't listened to that episode, I brought up the code there as the reason why Wuthering Heights is only focused on the first half of the book, not the entire book. So we are back to back. We're like
It's the season of old remakes.
It's the season of old remakes, and man, the code sucked. Going into like what's happening with the events of after the film is like, yeah, like one of the things is of course like people assume that Henry died at the end of the movie, and so here we have to go, no, like this is what happened to Henry. Like it's like the movie still feels like, understandably, like we have to still have Frankenstein in the film because he's the title character, but also to figure out where the creature is, where the monster is in this one.
It's funny that you say he's the title character,
right?
Because I was thinking about this, where it is this funny thing that happens where the original film's called Frankenstein, and we only have Dr. Frankenstein and his monster, the creature, however you want to call him.
Yeah.
And this becomes like almost like codifying why people confuse the monster with that being his name, Frankenstein, because this is called Bride of Frankenstein. But there is like a funny, also like plot, almost like the B plot, is that Dr. Frankenstein is getting married.
Yeah.
So he has a bride. So there is like it's funny to think of like who is the titular bride of Frankenstein because he has Elizabeth, but then they are creating the bride that we know as the Bride of Frankenstein. So it's the title I find so funny. It's like not a play on word, but it's certainly just like a confusing metaphor.
Yeah. That's a good point too.
The Bride of Frankenstein makes it a very gray area about who is Frankenstein, who is the monster, right? All of that. They actually end up addressing that in Son of Frankenstein, which came out another 4 years later, where he says, people even call the monster Frankenstein. They're calling the monster my name. And they actually bring that up.
That's so funny.
Oh, I never knew that because I never saw Son of Frankenstein. That's really funny.
And then in Son of Frankenstein,
I would say Son of Frankenstein is the last one really worth seeing. I like to sort of, actually, I don't know. I do love Frankenstein meets the Wolfman too. Oh, yeah. It's not. These first 3 movies I just think are like a slightly different caliber than the rest. And the first 2 in particular, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, are just completely a league of their own.
Well, one of the things that I will say that strikes me so much about Bride, especially when you do comparison watching it immediately from the original film, is just, and I love the original movie, how it looked, but something about the second movie, something about Bride, the visuals we're just steeped in cooler visuals where it's like there's just like the set design is like more gothic, more horror. The lighting is more stylized, and the movie just, I don't know, I almost feel like it's almost like everyone went, we're just gonna up the horror, we're gonna up the mood, we're gonna up the scary.
I definitely had that thought when Dr. Pretorius was having his little lunch in the crypt. I was like, yeah, they really like this crypt is such like a specific location.
Yeah.
And the way that he had like set up his little meal with a little candle and a skull, it was like, yeah, they really amped it up.
Yeah. In a good way. I think, and it's whenever we think of like whatever is over at Dark Universe at Dark Universe over at Epic Universe at Florida, they're doing this. They're doing essentially this movie, you know. And I think that's such a cool jump when you watch the original film so close to this one. It's like, oh, they went with, we want to do more.
Absolutely. I mean, it borders on camp in a lot of ways. And I actually, my next Universally Me video is going to be about, there's a lot of queerness and a lot of camp sensibility throughout this entire film. And that goes for, a lot of the actors in the film are queer, and the just sort of campy sensibility, and of course Dr. Pretorius and his attitude and sort of sassiness, they really did just dial everything up. But I think that's part of what makes it so incredible and memorable, and what sets it apart from other films.
I love Dr. Pretorius. I think he's like such this unusual character, but he makes total sense in this universe. Like they really pulled off like threading the needle of having it be, this is a sequel and you're going to meet a new character who knew Dr. Frankenstein before, was essentially his mentor. He learned from him. And now we're bringing him back. And there's a reason why you never saw him before. Yeah. And there's a reason why Dr. Frankenstein said, I don't want to deal with this guy. Like he comes back into his life because now he sees that he had pulled off what they had worked on together, what they had kind of had the ideas for together. That's kind of like, that's so rare to see in a movie to actually get pulled off, where it's like, where was this character? It's like, no. It makes total sense why he wasn't in the first one.
I would say, like, in reference to the opening bit you and me just did in this episode, that is, every time I watch that sequence in particular, it is a sequence where I feel there's a small part of my brain that just kind of goes, is this pushing too far in a different direction? And then the other part of my brain went, shut up.
I mean, even
enjoyed this.
Even Henry Frankenstein, he says, this isn't science anymore. This is black magic.
And yeah, but it's also cool and fun and really like, just like, I don't know, like the bit where he picks up the king because he wants to, like, like the
king breaks out, and he's trying to get to the queen. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know why this works, but it works for me.
And it looks good.
Looks good.
Like you'd think like nearly 100-year-old movie would not look that good with that kind of special effect, but they really did it.
Although, like, I'm now, this is classic. Like, nowadays we know exactly how to do that effect, but back then I think there's more of a magic now, especially because we're going, so how did you pick up the king and then move the king in the same wide shot? Yeah. So you can see Pretorius put him back in the jar. The jar. How'd you do that in 1935? It's kind of incredible. The monster, the creature, though, he gets an amazing side story, essentially,
which becomes like, again, part of the iconic like language of Frankenstein. Like every film since then needs to reference this. So it's like even films that are trying to tell like the Frankenstein story incorporate elements of Bride of Frankenstein, just because it becomes so like, oh, this is what you think of when you think of the monster.
Yeah. No. Though specifically, like, yeah, I'll just jump to it. Like, specifically the scene where, like, he befriends the blind man. And it's, I think this is essentially, if you have a reason to kind of sympathize to the monster, this you think of this sequence, because it kind of like shows like he just needs someone to care about him.
Well,
it really is the most heartbreaking, heartwarming, and then heartbreaking scene ever. Like it is what made me fall in love with the monster and with this movie, which is like he finally has somebody who can't see him and therefore isn't instantly scared of him, and instead like nurtures him and helps teach him friendship and language and all of these things. There's that one part when they like pray together and the monster just sheds this one beautiful tear while they're holding hands. Like if you don't fall in love with the monster, I don't think you have a heart.
Yeah. No, 100% agreed. No.
And I like how it it's what the Mary Shelley character said at the beginning. She said, well, I was telling a moral story about good and bad. And then you get to this moment, and this is where the monster learns good and bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, like he just needed that. Like he needed, instead of a scientist going like, oh my God, I've become God. It's like, now you have to, follow through and teach him things.
Well, the constant thing I joke about with most Dr. Frankenstein's is like, oh, Dr. Frankenstein, an awful father of the, like winner of the worst father of the year consistently. Like even in the recent example of the Del Toro films, like, yeah, you're a terrible dad. What the hell?
There's that quote. It's like, knowledge is knowing Frankenstein isn't the monster. Wisdom is knowing Frankenstein is the monster.
I want to see that embroidered like on a thing. That's like so good.
That's really funny. I've never heard that. That's really good. But yeah, because just. And I know this is clearly when we're not here to talk about Del Toro's film, but it's very obvious. Like that's his favorite sequence too, and that's like it's like he couldn't help himself. So I just have to do it.
Well, yeah, and then
Will I get in trouble here if I say that Del Toro's Frankenstein kind of bored me?
That's Dave. That's fine. We're not even discussing that movie specifically.
If we're admitting things, I'll say, yeah, I didn't super love it. I think Lordy's like the best part of it, and when they let him go off and have his own little adventure, that's like where the movie shines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was beautiful as I expected it would be, but I don't know.
No, I'm in the more of the camp that likes it, but I also kind of get it. So I'm not here to defend it. I'm actually kind of like I understand all that. But it is like the most recent.
Yeah.
Version of the character until we get to the later half. But yeah.
I do want to talk about I had read something where Karloff had said that he was upset that they wanted Frankenstein, the monster, to speak. And so they had come up with some kind of a system of, well, he only knows, this many words. He only has like a 10-year-old learning level. Yeah. Like those kinds of things. I think that's actually really interesting that but it sounded like he got like mad about it. Like he was like, I don't want to talk. But at least they kind of limited it and they didn't make it like over the top or anything. I think it worked really well.
I agree. And if anything, I think that's kind of, to me, the strength of like evolving a sequel to like the right direction. Which is, if your knowledge of the creature from the first film is this lumbering, nonverbal character outside of some, to put it simply, the idea that the moment he starts learning how to talk, you kind of just go, oh wow, like, not to spoil. There's a recent sequel for a film that came out in January, in which a similar vibe came to be, and I literally went, oh shit. And I feel like that impact means something when the character that can't speak speaks, and even if it's simple, like just him saying bad, good, fire, bad, it's got an impact. And I think making it the right level, which means, yeah, he's not spitting like a monologue here, but the fact that he's building sentences shows an evolution of the character and furthering a sequel to a new direction while retaining the stuff that we liked from the first film. I think whenever, not to go too much into it, but like when building a sequel, the feeling of a sequel should be like, isn't like do the same thing as the first movie, like, which is sadly 90% of sequels. The sequel should be like the next phase of these characters' lives with elements from that you liked from the first one, Antonia,
I can understand that Karloff was like protective over the monster and wanted to I guess, retain what he felt was authentic. But I do like the evolution of as he's learning the world, learning people, trying to find his place in it. It makes sense that he would start picking up some language, and especially its simplicity, right? Friend, good, fire, bad. Those kinds of things actually track really well for me. I like that.
Yeah. And I feel like to go back to what you're saying, I would be remiss to not mention the Pitch Perfect parody in Young and Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And how, rest his soul, how perfect Gene Hackman did this bit. That's just one of my favorite scenes in that movie, period. And the fact that they nailed it. It's it's like, no, this is essentially the scene in Bride of Frankenstein, but they figured out the exact beats to go, and this is how we make it funny, without destroying the scene, and without even destroying the integrity of the blind man. All his bits is like, okay, now what if he pours the soup on Frankenstein's lap? What if he burns his finger? And the only reason the monster leaves is not because like something bad happened to the blind man. It's like, no, this blind man's gonna kill him. Pitch Perfect.
Not to keep bringing other movies into this, but when you finally watch Son of Frankenstein, you are going to see a ton of overlap between Son of Frankenstein and Young Frankenstein.
I think you just convinced me to finally get around to watching Son of Frankenstein.
You should.
Like, actually, that's great. But anyway, where do we get after he? Let's help me out here.
Yeah, he gets out.
Well, the hunters come
Yes.
and sort of identify him now as the monster. Poor blind man's house gets burned down, and Frankenstein is now, lost and wandering again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Get back to the whole back to being being on the run. Yeah, Frankenstein's on the run. That's essentially this is half of the story.
Yes, the scene I kind of mentioned it. Pretorius has two grave robbers help him break into a grave, and that's where Pretorius and the monster meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love their scene. I just love that he's like, oh, I thought I was alone. This kind of he's so erudite, he's so oh, hello there, and here's this monster that can barely speak. And when he does speak, he's like, oh, well, that's interesting. He's like, yes, I want you to be my friend. It's such a cool meeting of these two polar opposites, and the way that he kind of convinces the monster to help him. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to make you a mate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah. So he's like, I won't be alone. Yeah, this is all very basic, human needs. And Pretorius is just taking full advantage of him. And I feel like it's one of those where he's not, it's I was reading something about the movie, and they referred to Pretorius as the antagonist. And I was like, oh, right. He is the bad guy. Pretorius is fully the villain in this story.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just, he's so fascinating. And with what, Dr. Frankenstein did in the first one, you don't always think of Dr. Frankenstein as the villain, but he is. And then here in this, in Bride of Frankenstein, he's trying to reform. He's like, no, he's like, I messed up. I shouldn't have made a guy. I've got a fiance. I'm going to go get married and get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Pretorius who's like, no, we need to double down on that.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make more people. And it's Pretorius is such a villain in a way that I think it's he's so friendly, you don't even think about it. It's yeah, this is the bad guy. Because also you have the monster going around killing people. So It's well, that's the bad guy. But then he has this scene where, he finds out what friendship is. And you're like, oh, wait, he's just a baby. He's just, he doesn't know anything.
That's a really good way of putting it. He's just a 6 foot tall, super strong baby.
Yeah.
That just needs someone to kind of hey, no.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's fine. I never angled that in my head. That's not a bad or wrong assessment on Pretorius, but you're totally right. There is like a bit of, I think there is something interesting too about the idea of Henry kind of like recoiling from the mad scientist element of his life and just kind of being like, no, like you said, I fucked up.
Right.
And so the idea, it's almost like an addict situation, right? Where it's like Pretorius is like, come on, man. Like, he's mad scientist. He's more mad scientist than Henry, hence the small people in jars. You know?
Which is his way of explaining.
Like such a restraint to like how he does it, right? That he's not your typical villain. He's not yelling. He's not going crazy. He's like almost charming and funny. He makes all those little jokes all the time, like, oh, cigar, it's my only vice. Oh, whiskey, it's my only vice. Like, you know, I when I watch it, I'm like, oh, I think I want to hang out with Pretorius.
Right,
I think he'd make a great friend.
At the least, I would like to have drinks with the guy for one night. Like, I would love just want to hear him talk. Like, oh, go, keep going. But yeah, he is sort of like dragging that element out of Henry, even though Henry's like, no, I will not be operating on dead bodies again. I'm done. You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's, you know, he's a villain in that, well, I mean, in all of the ways that you guys said, but I guess it's like what makes him so dangerous is that he's the type, he's going to lure you in and like convince you versus, you know, bullying you or yelling you. Like, he just has his one goal, which is, I guess, make life outside of the rules of nature, or, you know, whatever that means. And he's going to like charm you into doing it, I guess.
Yeah, he's obsessed. It's like the dangerous obsession. And he says of like the little people in jars that he's like I grew them like a seed. And I'm like, that is so like, that's extra creepy.
Yeah.
Like, that really like, they never show you what that means.
Yeah.
They just say that and you just have to think about it. You just have to be like, oh God, what was that?
So he grew him like a seed.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder if he grew them, does that mean that like one day they might continue to grow to be the size of a real person?
Right.
Or like, are they done growing?
Right. I want, you know, that's why he keeps them in jar. Like, he's like, well, I can't dispose of them. They might suddenly have a spurt and I might have a person here.
Like not to overthink it, but sometimes when you put okay, God, hear me out. I had a turtle when I was a kid, and like it was a little water turtle, and then when I got him, like I put him in like a little small area, like a little small, like kind of aquarium type thing, and he kind of remained fairly small for a while. I moved when I moved to live in LA. My nephews took care of him, and then my sister ended up buying a bigger tank. And when I came home, they're like, "You haven't seen we haven't shown you how he got bigger." I went, "What do you mean how he got bigger?" Came to the room and I saw the aquarium. He is massive. And I'm like, what happened? It's like, yeah, well, we put him in a bigger aquarium and he just got bigger. And I'm like thinking, that's what Pretorius is doing. If I put them in a bigger container, they will be bigger. But if I put them in a jar, they get as big as the jar.
Yeah, he had to get bigger jars.
That's
his next step.
It's like it's atrium, just atrium of people. Anyway, he does convince the monster to kidnap Elizabeth to finally drag Henry to like, come on, just finish this thing with us.
Yeah.
And that again, that to me, if anything, a real sign of Pretorius being the antagonist is like, okay, you threatened someone's life, an innocent person's life,
right,
to get what you want. You know.
Okay, so maybe he's not all charm.
He reached the limit of his charm, and he's like, okay, I got to do the other thing now.
Yeah. I was trying to woo you, but never mind. I got your wife. And so yeah, no, this is like allowed. Now we get like Henry to finish the bride body, finish the experiment.
They had to get whatever they had dug up was not good. They had to go get a fresh body.
Yeah.
Which the only thing that the assistant guy said, he's like, oh, it's from a crime case. So it's like possibly she was murdered or something.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting. Yeah, go on.
I just want to point out that one of the grave, like one of Pretorius's men is Dwight Fry, who in the original Frankenstein was Fritz,
Oh, how funny.
and
Yes.
in the original Dracula is our Renfield.
Oh.
It's kind of
Typecasting.
kind of typecasting.
he really found his role.
Yeah.
I like playing assistants to madmen.
I mean, Dwight Fry had a really interesting trajectory as the monster. Well, in general, he struggled to find work over time. And as the monster movies go on, his roles get smaller and smaller. So there are, I want to say it's maybe Frankenstein meets the Wolfman or something. He's just like a villager with one line. In The Invisible Man, he's like a journalist with a couple of lines. Like his roles get smaller and smaller over time.
That's extremely unfortunate because
Yeah.
I've always actually was a fan of his Renfield quite a bit. So
Oh yeah.
you know, like I think I'm like as flawed as the Renfield movie that they did a couple years ago was, I appreciated they paid homage to him with that one shot of Nicholas Hoult just do the Fry smile. So that's unfortunate to hear, honestly. But I remember watching the credits to this and went, hey, I forgot he's in this. You know?
But yeah, so they get the bride's body, and the idea is, right, it's like Pretorius is like, I'll get the brain, you get the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they put those two elements together, that's what they have. We have the whole lab sequence, which I only think about this because it just feels like it's that it's the convenience to the plot where it's like, well, of course it's a stormy night with lightning. Like on the night that they need it to be. It's like if it was clear skies, they could never do these experiments. So they must live in like the rainiest part of whatever country it's supposed to be.
It's a 75-minute movie. Yeah, I guess we just gotta get going.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, it's the same way.
I know what you mean.
The same way that in most movies, when a character is sad, it's raining outside.
Right.
Like it's the shorthand of what the world is.
Yeah, and they need exactly. And we just got to get to it's alive part 2. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And so
He rebuilt this lab pretty fast, though, huh? Like it kind of feels like Henry was waiting for it. He was like, "Don't ask me to rebuild it," and he's like already working on it.
Henry? What are you doing up there? Nothing. Building a model ship in a bottle. They do the experiment, of course, and I believe the monster actually the monster like kills Carl.
Yeah,
Okay.
When he threw him, it was a real good. They had a really good dummy, I'll say. But I mean, you could tell it's a dummy, but it was like that looked kind of good though when he threw that body off the castle.
It's not like the first Frankenstein when Colin Clive gets thrown like onto the windmill thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can instantly tell that that's a dummy and not him.
Yeah,
yeah, they got a little better in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we speak about like James Whale dialing it up and sort of how campy and dramatic and extreme it is, I feel like this creation scene with the lights, the camera being like tilted at crazy angles, their faces, just like all of the stuff it's I think it was the author Julian David Stone who described it as like operatic. It is so dramatic and beautiful. I could watch it 100 times.
Oh no, this is what I would like to say is the good stuff. You know, it's like when I think of mad scientist stuff, when I think of Frankenstein movies in general, I think of this sequences like this. And you're super right. It's like he went more like just more dramatic in every possible cool way. And he already kind of did it great in the first time. So it's like, how do you do this again? It's just simple minor changes, but it just adds a little extra spice to it, you know?
I checked the how much time was left when this kind of sequence started, and it was only 7 minutes. And I thought to myself, this is the 7 minutes you bought the ticket for.
Yeah.
Like really and truly, it's like you're sold. The movie is called Bride of Frankenstein. You see the poster, you hear who's in it, you hear about it. They say, "Oh yeah, there's a woman Frankenstein." Oh my goodness, a woman monster? How can that be? This is your 7 minutes that like you lock in, and like this is like the joy of like movies to me, where it's like, it is the last, nowadays it's like the last 30 minutes that you get that big set piece, you lock in, like something crazy is happening. And now back then it was like, because it was under an hour and a half, they're like, the last 10 minutes is where we're going to just crank up all the insanity. We're going to have the monster throw a guy off a roof. They're going to be turning dials. The electric's going to be flashing. Like it's good. This is really good.
And I got to commend like the fact that it's like you're saying, this is the ticket buying scene. This is why you bought it.
Yeah.
The fact that the rest of the movie is so good.
Yeah.
It's so enjoyable. And it's like balanced well between what's happening with Monster, what's happening with Frankenstein Pretorius. That it's just like, this doesn't feel like a cop-out that the bride only shows up for like the last couple minutes. It feels like honestly, it feels like a legitimate buildup to that ending. It feels like that ending is earned because you're seeing the journey the monster's going through to find peace, to find connection, realizing that's what he needs. Then you see Henry and Pretorius in their back and forth struggle of like, how do we, like denying what you are, Henry, that's stupid, and like pushing him to the brink of, okay, fine, you're right, I will do this again. This is who I am. And like, this leads to this ending. And it sort of works and makes sense that the reaction of the bride when she is alive and sees Frankenstein's monster is the correct answer. It's like,
yeah.
She does this.
The Frankenstein monster is a 6-foot baby.
Yeah.
Like, she was just born 5 minutes ago, and suddenly they're like, here's another monster. This is your husband or something. She's like, who am I? Where am I?
Yeah.
Who are you? What the F?
Yeah, that scream kind of says all of that in one bit. It's like, it's everything you just said, Antonia, is like, yeah, and it's all encapsulated in the what are we doing here?
They have, and the way that she kind of reacts to the world and seeing everyone is so fascinating, because she reaches out to Henry. And they kind of like, he's like holding her up, and it's almost like she's swooning, but she starts to lose because her feet, she's never walked on her feet.
Right.
And so Pretorius kind of helps her up, and they're kind of holding on to her. And then seeing the monster, she has the big reaction. And then she again like reaches out to Frankenstein. It's almost like a dance that they're doing, where like she's like reaching and he's like holding on to her, and then sets her down on like the little chair or couch or whatever they have in the corner. And Pretorius tries to stop the monster, and that's where the monster overpowers him and goes over. And he has this like clarity.
Yeah.
The monster has the clarity, and it has to be him that has to have the clarity. And because they've given him such good character throughout this film, you believe it.
Yeah.
Where he's like, well, this is wrong. He's like, because he says it even earlier in the film. He's like, I don't like living. I like dead. Like, and that's because that's who he is, or where he comes from, or however you want to interpret that. And him seeing his creator and his wife being happy and being possibly able to live a good, normal life, he's like, yeah, I'm just going to blow it all up. Like, when he says we belong dead, it's like, oh my goodness. Like, no wonder that's like such an iconic line. Like, it's like, oh my God. Like, he has that clarity of like, I shouldn't exist. And I'm going to be the one that has to get rid of all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so heartbreaking, because it's his realization, like, in this world, he's never going to be accepted. He's never going to find love. Like, he had that glimpse of it with the hermit, of like how good life could be.
Yeah. And
it was taken away from him in a second. And there's no other, he doesn't see any other way that he could ever experience that again.
I know exactly, and it's why I love this ending so much. It's like it's almost like any earned feelings you had for the creature being is justified to a degree, and like the fact that he does this, it's his choice. The first time he gets to have a choice is in this moment, because even he was manipulated by Pretorius to do something terrible. And the fact that his choice is like, no, like, I'm ending this. And it's just incredible, So yeah, no, Pretty good movie. Pretty good picture. The Bride of Frankenstein.
There really isn't anything that I would change about this movie, but I do wish that Universal would have made an actual Bride movie where she got to be, she rises from the rubble or whatever at the end, and now we move forward with her story. Which I guess was Maggie Gyllenhaal's inspiration in a sense for her Bride movie. It was like, well, we don't get to see the bride and who she might become. But I don't know why Universal, they never used her again.
I am just actually funny with our conversation with you last year made me kind of start thinking that more often to the, I am, curious and just as kind of confused. And like right now, I don't know, like, I've been kind of saying this a lot with some other, is like Universal Studios has the monsters, the ones that everyone knows. Anyone who's doing a version of Frankenstein or Dracula are doing Boris and Bella. And the fact that they own these versions, they're not doing anything really big with them. They've reinvented their wheels too many times. That's frustrating. And I'm just like, where is that project?
Justin, they were the Dark Universe didn't pop off the way that they wanted it to.
I know that's
and it scared them, I think.
But it was garbage. I still think about that sometimes, like the Jekyll and Hyde through line and Tom Cruise action mom. Sometimes I'm like, okay, whatever, they tried a thing, it didn't work, and I'm okay with it. And then sometimes I think about it and I'm like, I'm mad. I'm so mad.
No.
I think at the time we were going to have if my memory is correct, we were going to have like an Angelina Jolie Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Which I would have given my left arm for.
Well, I think
now we have nothing.
What gets to me, the only thing that bums me out about the destruction of the Dark Universe crap, and it's crap. Let me be real clear. I'm with you because that was our first episode of this podcast is covering that mummy. Not even the Brendan Fraser mummy. That's what a lot of people have told us. I agree. Thank you. It was a rough start.
Many people said, that's a remake? We said, yes. It was the Dark Universe.
But if I am bummed about a project that fell through, is that one. Specifically, Bill Condon was supposed to be at least a writer. And knowing how much, obviously, because you mentioned earlier, Bride of Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters, yeah.
Knowing how much he's a horror guy. Bill Condon loves horror. He loves Universal horror. Clearly, he made a movie about James Whales. So the fact that he was gonna direct and definitely write a Bride movie for this bullcrap Dark Universe bums me out intensely. And instead, he goes off and he makes the not great Beauty and the Beast live action film.
Yeah. I did read something about it. There's like a Universal comic or something that continues the story of the Bride.
It's current, yeah. I haven't read those yet. Antonia, are you aware of that?
I think I've gotten messages about them, but I haven't read them.
I have no idea if they're good or not, but I like the company that's publishing them. So it means I think they have a Creature Moot comic coming out as well.
I heard about that as well. Yeah.
So we'll see. Those are fun. I might check some of those out just out of curiosity. Say sure, why not?
I wish it were Universal. I think we'll remember from last year. I didn't love the new Wolfman, but I thought it made some good choices. I really did like the Invisible Man from
that was great.
2020.
Same.
I like the idea that maybe we'll have all of these individual monster movies that are just made as people trying to make good films, and then one day we can wrap them into a universe. I don't think we necessarily need to put the cart before the horse here.
Yeah.
I think we can make strong individual movies and combine them together. I wish Maggie's Bride was a Universal film and that it was part of our universe. I'm bummed that other studios are taking advantage of the monsters first, or different or better.
No, agreed. Okay, so we're gonna finally get out of these jam jars and and we're gonna hitch a ride to the 1930s, and we're gonna see really what happens when the bride finally takes center stage. At least when someone finally makes a movie about the bride and actually commit to being about the bride. Right after this.
To all who come to this happy podcast, welcome.
Anna Musings are your musings.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
And here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future.
Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Kayla.
And if it wasn't readily apparent from that, we're huge nerds about Disney. That's why we're doing the Anna Musings podcast.
Once a month, we'll sit down and talk about a film in detail from the Walt Disney Animation Studios filmography, covering them in chronological order, from Snow White to Moana and beyond.
To Moana and beyond!
Sweetie, we're not doing Pixar yet. We'll do that after.
And that's gonna be a long time coming. Anyway, if that sounds up your alley, come join Kayla and I, and maybe a guest or two, as we explore the Disney animated canon, film by film.
With the hope that it'll be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
Ooh, nicely said.
Don't thank me, thank Walt.
All right, let's step into the theater and see this picture show here. Oh, it looks like they're showing something called The Bride. Oh, and what's this? There's a little extra show before? Well, that's nice. Oh, it looks like it's a Patreon. Patreon.com/nothing-new. I want to hear what that's about. Let me listen in.
But, here's the Clancy as the monster.
Yeah.
That's a great casting
Pretty
choice.
good. He's a big, imposing guy.
And he's pretty good in this.
Mm-hmm.
Even like his little sweetness that he shows every once in a while. I'm like, oh, problem. There's too much of him. In a movie called
so much of him.
The Bride.
Well, what was so funny is that, okay, so
you can follow that film, and along with following our Patreon for only $1 a month, you can also get all the episodes from the 2017 on. So yes, you can get for $1 a month, you can get every Patreon that we've done. We've covered more movies that are connected to the main episode. We've remade our own suggestions. We've done other comparisons to other films in there. We finally started doing rankings and listings, which is wild because I don't know why we never thought of that before, etc. Also some panels that we've done over at the convention. So we've had those exclusively on there. So we missed out some of our like Comic-Con and WonderCon. They are also on our Patreon. But also, of course, for $25 for 1 month specifically, you can control the show and tell us what to cover. So if you feel like Frankenstein versus the Wolfman needs to be compared to Van Helsing, I guess we can go with that argument.
Wow, huh? Yeah, I guess that could work.
I guess I'm not throwing that out there. I don't believe it, but if you pay us, we'll believe it for that month. But of course, on other great episodes, I always bring up the usual King Kong, one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. Treasure Island,
Muppet Treasure Island,
with the original Treasure Island. Mm-hmm. We've also, of course, done Ninja Turtles, Power Ranger, etc. So, and again, I've always said that this is my new bit. We have yet to cover Scarface, and we have decided the only way we're ever going to cover Scarface if somebody out there pays us that month to cover Scarface. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's just going to keep dangling. Sorry, Tony Montana.
They might, before we get to it, they might make a new Scarface.
And I'm going to still insist. I'm not budging on that. Before we get on to the picture show, Antonia, please, once again, tell folks where they can find you on social media and, of course, your work.
Yeah, you can find Universally Me on YouTube. It's a channel for all things Universal and classic horror. So either look up Universally Me or youtube.com/Antonia Carlotta. And you can find me on all other social media at Antonia Carlotta. And in person, I will be at WonderCon in a week or two and Monsterpalooza in June.
Awesome. Cool. I went to go check out your panel at Monsterpalooza last year, and that was a lot of fun too. So it's I'm hoping to go again this year. I'm not sure if I can make it, but we'll find out. Monsterpalooza is a lot of fun. Okay, so The Bride. Now, not to be confused with the Patreon that also is this month. which is also called the same exact title. This one has the exclamation point.
This one has the exclamation point.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
And I also want to believe in my heart of hearts that they must have wanted to originally call this film the Motherfucking Bride.
Sure.
Because it is stated in the film, and then it was part of their ad campaign, the trailer. Obviously it was bleeped out in the way, that they obscure the letters, but I believe, in my heart of hearts, that's what they wanted to call this movie, because it is kind of doing the most.
Yes. No, I can see that. Honestly. This is an interesting project because of the fact that it's not connected to Universal Studios. It's its own thing. I did see originally this was at one point mildly set up at Netflix for a hot minute, and then Warner Bros. Ended up grabbing it. And yeah, no, this is directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. Big swing film. I'm definitely gonna start with that.
Did you see The Lost Daughter?
I did not. I didn't get.
Antonia, did you see The Lost Daughter? It was on Netflix.
I did not, but I've been hearing actually incredible things about it. Everybody says that it's like beautiful and subtle and nuanced and all of the things that The Bride was not. So I am very curious.
I will tell you, I guess the sole person who watched The Lost Daughter, this was like shocking. Like this is like, you kind of see like, you're like, oh, I kind of get, Maggie Gyllenhaal we've seen as an actor for years, and then now as a director, it's like, oh, I guess her style's kind of understated, a little, transgressive at times. Like The Lost Daughter, the plot on that was a little prickly. Like it was like about characters that you wouldn't like. Like it was a really fascinating look at like a kind of a dark turn on motherhood, but it was all very like, simple. Like it wasn't like this movie's just like the most.
I feel like that's obviously what she wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Clearly she's like, I proved they can make a film. Now I want to go buck wild. And boy does she. I will
say that I was maybe medium on seeing obviously I was going to watch the film. Obviously I love The Bride, but I was like, okay, I'll see it when I see it. When I started seeing the crazy disparate reviews, people like loved it or they hated it. It was amazing or it was trash. To me, like that in itself was an indicator that she took big swings and made me so excited to see it. I saw it technically like, I don't know, the night before opening night, like whatever the earliest screening was, I was in that theater because I was like, well, this is going to be no matter what fun. Like whether it's good or it's bad, I will not be bored.
It's so funny. I mentioned Wuthering Heights earlier in this episode, and I'm not going to lie. I had that same feeling leaving this theater, much like how I left the recent Wuthering Heights, is that I really had I enjoyed being in the theater for the experience. I don't know if it connects for me a lot, but there are things I really dug about it. And that's kind of how I felt about Wuthering Heights when I left Wuthering Heights. Is like, I'm like, wow, Emerald Fennell really swung big. I don't know if it works for me or if it'll keep working for me after I think about it. But at the moment, I had a good time. This one, I was like, wow, that's two in a row for me for this show. Where it's like, man, it's a big swing.
I think if I want to take your metaphor a step further and just going through that lens of who like authorship and the creating of the film and like reinterpretation of elements. Where in Wuthering Heights, we talked about this in our episode, but the idea, it seemed to me like what Emerald Fennell was doing was everything in the book, she was doing it kind of the opposite on purpose. Like the idea, we talked about this a lot in the episode, but it's like Heathcliff is portrayed as a white man, and in the book he's described as having darker skin. It's all of these little things where it's like Emerald Fennell is making choices, but they all seem to be like the wrong choice, or they seem to be, she's trying to say something and it's like not coming across. And then here we have The Bride, and I think we have the same kind of authorship idea where Maggie Gyllenhaal has a lot of thoughts on the myth of Frankenstein and the myth of the Bride of Frankenstein. Like not just simply the James Whale film. Like she is going through the history of like doomed lovers and like the idea of what does, like this film is set in the 1930s. That seems very like meaningful in the sense that The Bride of Frankenstein came out in 1935. Like, this is like, she's like taking it into its own time frame. Like, it's like this bizarre thing where she's trying to say a lot. And again, I'm like, I don't know if I'm catching everything that you're saying or if I agree with it, but you are saying a lot.
Yeah.
A lot about
It's funny.
a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a list of things, I don't know, that I didn't necessarily like in the movie, right? Where it's clunky or underdeveloped or too much or unnecessary, right? All of these things. Yet I still left being like, I love this movie. It's sort of like, I love this movie, asterisk, and then all the things that I didn't love. But so often, movies can be so formulaic and, you just sort of check off the boxes of the things that you're supposed to do. And it's maybe hard sometimes to feel like people are taking big swings. And I just really respect the big swing. And I think some of, where we're talking about, she tried to throw so much in there, she placed it in the 30s, like the original Bride. Like, I'm pretty sure that she talked about coming up with this movie because she saw somebody with a bride tattoo, and that was sort of her first foray into starting to like explore the monsters and explore sort of the bride and her history. And so I feel like, like a little bit she came into this movie, she's just discovering these things for the first time and she's so excited about them all. And that's why she tried to put everything in. There isn't subtlety and there isn't nuance, and I don't think she killed any of her darlings here. I appreciate the enthusiasm.
This is so funny to me, and I've never done this on the show. I've never said this about this on the show. This is the first for me. This echoes so much what our guest last month on Wuthering Heights,
Right.
Zoe, said about her feelings on the 2026 film. And it's funny, you two are very separate people. You don't know each other, but you both have a respect for the material that we're talking about, and you definitely have your knowledge of it. And you both came out of this experience going, I appreciate the attempt.
Yeah, it's definitely yeah, it really does. She threw everything at the wall. Oh, yeah. Antonia, you said she didn't kill her darlings. I think if anyone killed her darlings, she brought them back to life.
I'm going to get this out of the way because we were sort of hinting at this before we start recording. If there's anything that I do feel is, pun mildly intended, universally agreed upon for this film, Jessie Buckley is
incredible.
Absolutely. Holy cow. Wow.
Uh-huh.
I was talking about this film with a friend yesterday, and he personally didn't like it, but he's like, "Oh, but Jessie, if they ever like this is a world that she should have gotten an Oscar nod for. She won't, but she should, because it's 3 different performances. It's 3 different layers, and it's compelling. It's exciting. It's nuanced, but also big. It's just wow. Also, I mean, to unpin it now, yes, I think it's very clear, as you know, like the 1935 film starts with Elsa playing Mary Shelley, and it's almost like Maggie goes, "What if I do that times 10?"
Yeah, she has the same actress playing both the creator and the creation, but then it's like it's not just that she's playing. She has it explicitly like Mary Shelley possesses this woman.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. Like, what a way to start your movie.
When the movie, yes, you're right. The movie starts that way. And I was like, this is where we're going with this? I literally was like, okay, let me go with this. Let me see where you're taking that. Because that is a wild choice to start with Mary Shelley going.
I'm a little confused by it. I'm
sure.
not gonna lie.
Me too. I'm still not even sure if I get it. You know,
I
don't know if she's like it almost came out like Tourette's, I guess, or like a dissociative identity disorder. I was like trying to figure out. It's weird because like obviously we can't exactly place the movie in reality or the real world, but I was like trying to make sense of how it made sense and how it fit in the world that we were in.
It definitely had this kind of the feet were in two different places. Like, it's something funny was going on with the idea that Mary Shelley from the dead says, I'm going to be possessing this woman to tell my sequel to Frankenstein. But then also in this world, Frankenstein exists. And he calls himself Frankenstein. Christian Bale, who also I think did a fantastic job.
I agree. Yeah.
And this is like coming on the heels of the Del Toro Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Like, I saw a little interview where he's like, I don't know how. He's like, I can't hope to compete. I think we're doing totally different things. You know, this idea of like, yeah, you really are doing two totally different things, and it's really crazy that we live in a world where two different Frankenstein performances can kind of be really good.
Yeah, and like yet they're kind of. They're not the same. They're definitely different, but yet also they kind of weirdly complement each other. Like, it's not at all the same world, not even the same continuity, but it does sort of kind of work. That if you saw Del Toro's film and then you watch this, it's like, I guess that kind of sort of kind of picks up. Like, don't overthink it. But yeah, no, I do agree. I think
I must be overthinking it.
This movie really asks the audience to don't overthink it, and also recognize every single reference that we're throwing at you.
I do agree. I think the possession, whatever is happening, is a lot. I don't really think it really works, because sometimes I think it gets in the way of when I get invested in the bride or Ida, whoever it is. And then Mary comes out of nowhere and starts interrupting. And I'm like, okay, so what is happening here? I don't think that is like step one of the babies that maybe should have probably been put back in the grave, but then has been resuscitated by the director.
It's
I love Jessie as Mary. I love Jessie as Ida, or the bride. I just did not love Jessie as Mary as Right.
I totally agree. It's too much. It's like I'm invested in one performance, and then like Mary shows up. What? Okay, what do we? Can we move? Get out of here.
Right. So Christian Bale as he calls himself Frankenstein, which he says he's like, yeah, after my father. Like he fully owns it, which is one of these, again, it's like self-referential to the idea of like, oh, the monster's not called Frankenstein. It's like, well, kind of like, here we are. We're just going to call him Frankenstein.
One of my good friends who was a guest on our show when we did Addams Family, Victor Kamba, his blue, I want to share his blue sky handle is Frankenstein is the monster's name. Victor is my name.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and him are in this conversation of like, we're kind of done doing the monster is actually not, nah. He's Frankenstein.
Just talking about this with somebody recently, like I am not pretentious about it at all. I'm absolutely cool if you call the monster, the creature, if you call him Frankenstein, like I think it's all acceptable. The one thing that always makes me cringe is people who get really like indignant that the monster's name is actually Adam. Because in the book there's a reference like I might be thy Adam, and whatever, it's some sort of biblical reference. And when people try to fight me that the monster's name is Adam, like, I don't know, that's the hill that I will die on. Like, no, that is not. It is not meant to be taken literally. That's for sure. There's 100 things you could tell me his name is, and Adam is not one of them. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
People do that with the prince from Beauty and the Beast. When he stops being the Beast, they want to call him Prince Adam, and I have no idea where people are getting this from.
Where is that from?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm a Disney person, and I'm like, nah, that's the Beast. What are you talking about? He's a man now? Whatever, he's the Beast.
No, he's man now, but he's King Beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so so we're at the point now, so after Ida's death and possession of Mary Shelley, we now catch up with Frankenstein. Frank, or Frankie, depending on who's speaking in this film, arrives to Chicago, where he meets Well,
Yeah, Dr. Euphronius,
yeah.
which is like
Erroneous.
I'm like, well, here's my Pretorius. It's like, but not really. She's doing like a totally different thing. I kind of enjoy that.
When I saw that like Annette Bening
Mm-hmm.
was playing the character, and she doesn't really show up in any of the trailers, which I'm a little surprised because I feel like that's unfair. I think she's kind of great in this.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like Pretorius is like leaves such an interesting shadow over the previous film that it's almost like, and like some people were like, well, we have to do a version of that character somehow, and she isn't, but elements are there. I mean, she does have the lab, so
Yeah.
I don't want to get like too far ahead of myself here, but I have a similar complaint with both Dr. Euphronius and I can't remember her name, but Penelope Cruz's character, which is like they're both sort of introduced as like, surprise, girls can be this too. And then like the character doesn't really get to go anywhere. The whole like I think Annette Bening, Dr. Euphronius could have been really cool and really amazing and whatever, but like, I don't know, just there like wasn't actually a lot there.
I do think, I think Maggie Gyllenhaal was making the choice of making like all of the main characters who make decisions and are part of the plot as women. Like the people who are like heroes or saving someone or trying to do the right thing. But yeah, it doesn't really, when there's a part in the movie where Euphronius is not there for like 40 minutes. And I was just like, where is she? We should cut back to her. Like we need to go back and see what she's doing because it's Annette Bening and she's really acting her ass off in this crazy little movie.
Yeah.
And
I feel like the whole like mafia, like we almost just didn't need any of the mafia stuff maybe. And then that time could have gone back to Euphronius instead. Like, again, she threw everything at the wall to see what sticks, but like then that came at the expense of building complete worlds for people.
Yeah, they're doing with, she's for some reason made the choice that Frank and the bride are Bonnie and Clyde, which is
like, hilarious because there is a character called Clyde.
Sure. It's truly like one of those things where it's like, well, what was this? Like, what was, if the pitch of your movie is Frankenstein and his bride are Bonnie and Clyde, why are you doing all this other stuff?
Yeah. No, none of the, like, the mobster stuff definitely doesn't gel at all. Like, I reckon.
When you bring
I hate that. They did that in Renfield too. They brought in a mafia storyline. We do not need mafia storylines.
No.
And then, I mean, the idea, so Peter Sarsgaard, who is Maggie Gyllenhaal's husband, plays a detective who kind of, his storyline goes nowhere.
Yeah. Especially like his connection to Ida and possibly, and it's a lot of this feels like Draft One stuff.
Kind of.
Like Draft One and yeah, I think we're all kind of in agreement of like, it's Maggie had so many ideas that she didn't know how to strip it down to like, but what's the coherent story?
It's interesting because it's like, I feel like she did have the nugget of, this is about a woman saying no.
Sure.
And that's such a transgressive act in this society where all these male mobsters are taking advantage. Mm-hmm. And so to have that be like, the bride says no to Frankenstein, which is what happens in the original Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And that is her kind of kernel that she starts with and says, now what if that was a whole thing and she makes a movement somehow because she's like a Bonnie and Clyde type character. But then you're forgetting, because in this film, she doesn't say no to Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. It's only like for a brief moment where she says, I don't know who you are. And then he says, well, I'm going to break you out of here because Euphronius is essentially holding us captive. Mm. And then they become like the doomed lovers. Like they have like this connection.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of not about what she's trying to make it. Like it started as what it was about, and then it turned into something else, and then she threw in mobsters. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It's supposed to be about her saying no, and then what happens? And you're right, she didn't say no.
Yeah.
It's like they got caught up with the idea of also doing a story where like this time, Frankenstein and the bride have a connection, that they do create some kind of relationship. But it's muddied by your point, Andrew, where it's like, okay, well then wait, hold on, what are we?
Yeah, I don't think it's wrong, but it certainly is like if you're going to start in one place and then go to another, it needs to kind of like connect or not be your thesis statement of the film.
And that's kind of why it's harder to kind of really put all the multiple different colored pieces in a coherent way. It's all these like all these like individual pieces maybe on their own are really interesting or really good, but it's like when you shove the detective piece next to the to the Ronnie Reed movie recreation piece next to
we haven't even talked about Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Jake. Yeah,
the director's brother.
Yeah,
it really, and then it turns into these things of like, people like to make fun of like nepo babies, but it's like this has been happening forever in film, and this one like feels like a really erroneous version of it, where it's like, I can't get anyone to be in my film. Well, I got to get my husband and my brother to be these bit parts. It's like, what? Why? Like, I don't know. I like both of them as actors, but it just feels like, it's like a family affair now.
Yeah. Well, and then like going back to Antonia's bit too about even going like with Penelope Cruz's character, I feel like that's a plot going nowhere as well. It's like a very on the nose. Like, okay, I get it, but also, do we have room for that in this movie?
Are either of you familiar with the Enola Holmes films?
I've seen the first one. Okay, I've seen the first one. Yeah.
And
I have not.
So the plot of Enola Holmes is, what if Sherlock Holmes had a sister who was a little sister who was smarter and stronger and better, and just nobody believed her because she was a woman. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what this feels like. It feels like that's kind of like a starting point of like, oh, we have to, show that everyone, and it's like, it's like a wrong footing. Like, it's like, we don't need to have the comparison. I mean, even the film itself is just called The Bride.
Yeah.
And then within the film, at one point, Frankenstein says, "Oh, you're the bride of Frankenstein. That's your name." Like, she wants a name.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Actually, I just want to be called the bride."
Yeah.
And it's like, detach yourself from the comparison and just like go have your own kind of little plot adventure.
Yeah.
But it's this idea that everything has to be connected to the male aspect. It's I think it's the same thing people sometimes feel with like a Supergirl character or a Batgirl, where it's like, well, why are they, connected to the male character? Like, they can go have their own, you can make an original story, do its own character, own thing.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like, that's kind of what this film's about, except that it never quite gets there. Yeah.
No.
It kind of feels like Maggie Gyllenhaal just took like, and I love so much of what she did, so I really don't want to be insulting, but it's like, she took one women's studies class in college and then now thinks she knows everything about like feminism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit what it felt like. Like, we never really got to go down to like level 2 or 3 or 4. We're just kind of on the surface of these ideas that like we can't see all the way through.
No, that's a great point, because I agree with that, because especially like the movement of the bride.
It kind of happens so off screen.
No, like everyone having these tattoos that represents like the kind of like staining on her mouth. Even Euphornius is like maid has it.
Yeah.
And it's and I'm sitting there going like, I'm sitting here watching this and I'm like, I understand what you're trying to do, but we didn't get there with this. I didn't think we got there organically, or we earned this sort of movement concept.
And here's the thing that I've heard some people say that kind of does piss me off. People are comparing this to Joker.
Nope. Okay.
And,
all right.
and especially Folie à Deux. And to me, it's like this. I don't think that is such an apt comparison, because I think everything that Maggie Gyllenhaal is referencing is so apparent. And if she wanted to reference Joker, you would know it. It would be very clear in the film. She is referencing like Bonnie and Clyde. She's referencing Young Frankenstein. She's referencing like films of the 30s. She's referencing all these. She's referencing like Chicago, mob riots. Like these are the things that are like built in and like said very explicitly by every character.
Yeah. The irony, of course, of like she like not only she wouldn't tell you if it's a Joker reference. Also, the fact that her and Christian definitely know about Jokers because they were both in the Dark Knight.
Oh my god, I felt like I was.
I don't think that she was referencing Joker Folie à Deux, but I just think like if you put the trailers side by side, it's impossible not to see similarities. I don't think that was intentional.
Yeah,
but but no, you're totally right, because that's like it's hard to not see those visuals next to each other and not think of it. I just think that's not the correct. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's like I agree. It's like I don't think comparing that Joker to this film is like it's kind of very surface bad read. It's like it's not really.
Yeah, I could see it visually. Yes,
visually, sure,
but I think that is kind of like a modern film situation anyway, of trying to do anything set in the past. It has like a certain look to it. To conclude the whole Joker full circle with both Maggie and Jake Gyllenhaal, the scene where the bride is holding Jake Gyllenhaal's character at gunpoint, and it's a fancy party, and Christian Bale is there as Frank. I was like, she is completely mirroring this. There's a scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker is holding Maggie Gyllenhaal at gunpoint.
Yeah, true.
Well, knife point.
Yeah.
And at a fancy party, and Christian Bale's there as Bruce Wayne. Like, I was like, what is she? I was like, is she trying to say something here? Or is this like she's having a little fun? Like, I don't know.
How
could be, right? Taking back the control.
Yeah.
Or like rewriting the narrative for women or something.
Yeah. It has like such a, to me, it felt very clear. But I'm, I love The Dark Knight maybe too much. So I was like, I've seen this scene before.
I think I have to ask both of you. So what are your thoughts on this film's putting on the Ritz moment?
A little much, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I just wondered, with that putting on the Ritz moment, and then there were other moments where Frank is watching films and he is imagining himself in the film.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, obviously as a film lover, I kind of appreciate it. I was like, oh, we're seeing his way of thinking that he's in society, thinking that he's a regular part of society, is going to films and like feeling a part of something bigger. But visually, I'm like, what is this supposed to mean? I don't know what it was supposed to mean in that moment.
Yeah.
The putting on the Ritz song.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I felt like so some references and some little nods were kind of fun to be able to see, right? Like at one point they're watching a Bela Lugosi movie, or I thought that the Frank character looked very Invisible Man sometimes when he was like hiding himself. So some of those things didn't necessarily feel like I was being hit over the head with them. Putting on the Ritz felt very hit over the head. We didn't need it. Again, that time could have been better spent. And I didn't love it. I was going to say something else and now I forgot, but I didn't think that reference was necessary. I loved going back to the Frankie in the movies kind of thing. I did love that he loved movies so much, and the Ronnie Reed films. When I think about the Frankenstein monster character and his longing for connection, understanding the world, right? I know in this movie he's like 100 years old, but when he's trying to find sort of the meaning of life and love and all of that, then pouring himself into the movies and trying to understand the world in that way, that made a lot of sense to me. Like, who hasn't been depressed and watched films to feel connection or to feel something or to whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, that just rang especially true to me.
I actually think, no, that's a good point. And I think like that to me is a really fun new element to add to the kind of like creating an emotional connection for Frankenstein. And I think Again, it's one of the things where it's like I like that he obsesses over one movie in specific. You know what I mean? One actor specifically, and like that's kind of what tethers him to like I can be that or be something like that. And I think because that's the power of that's the power of movies. Like you said, when we need that, that's what a good movie can do for us. And like the fact that like he's trying to get the bride to watch it and enjoy it and to be like, see what I see. That's kind of nice. But yeah, putting on the Ritz. When I heard it, like I didn't even like connect it right away. I was like, oh, this is a big dance number. Okay. And all these people are joining in.
I know, I connected it instantly. And there's also an interview where somebody brings up putting on the Ritz. And I felt like Maggie seemed very proud to be like, well, that's in Young Frankenstein, right? The interviewer is like, oh, good. I was hoping you were going to say that.
But I think, no, I agree with both of you that like I think I was sort of trying to catch up with the visuals of a big dance number that when I hear them scream putting on the Ritz, I sat there and, oh my God, really? Like I said that, like I said that in my head and I kind of felt a little slow and like catching up to like, really? I didn't catch that? But I was like, oh, I don't think I needed. I think that's the thing is like we all three of us seems like we are like, oh, we didn't need to go there. Like, and I can see that like, again, the big swing is let's reference one of the most famous parody films, one of the most famous comedies of all time, but also specifically this movie that like parodies the films that's inspiring this movie. Let's just go for it and like call it out. And I'm like, I see what you're trying to do. I think it doesn't work here. It's one of those where I wish someone kind of told her like, hey, that probably could you think of a different song?
Well, I to kind of preview the end there, she does end the film with the Monster Mash, which I thought was insane too.
I know,
like she's kind of going insane with the music in this movie.
It's weird. Putting on the Ritz I felt was too far. Monster Mash, I kind of sat in the thing and went, all right. I shrugged and I went, sure.
And I think by that point, it's kind of like, at least I felt like I had like surrendered myself to whatever this movie was. So it was kind of like, I was like, she's really crazy for doing this. It worked. Like, it's really crazy. Like, I don't think any other movie could pull it off.
No, it's again the big swings. It's like when it misses, I'm like, well, you missed bad. When it hits, I'm kind of into that. That's weird.
Oh, some other little details that I thought were just like bizarre too is that Penelope Cruz's character, her name is Myrna Malloy, and Myrna Loy was a famous actress of like the 30s and 40s. Okay. Then the bride's name at one point we find out it was Ida, and then the mob boss that's trying to cut every woman's tongue out, his name is Lupino. Ida Lupino was a famous actress and director of the 30s and 40s and 50s. I think
Junior dated Ida Lupino briefly in the 40s.
Wow!
Whoa!
Yeah, and I mean, she was a female director at a time when that wasn't like a huge thing, and it's just like so weird that in this film they're like, yeah, we're just gonna split up that name and give it to two different people. And at one point, there's someone who has a line. When it clicked for me, was someone had a line of dialogue where they're like, Ida is looking for Lupino. It was like I was like, wait a second. I'm like, why would they do that? It's just some little weird things like that it feels it has that, we're talking.
It had to be intentional.
It had to be intentional for
right.
sure. It's like the kitchen sink throwing everything at the wall, like however you want to say it. It's like she packed in every reference into this movie, even if it didn't make any sense. and at a certain point, you have to say, good for you. Like you got it all in there. It's like the suitcase that's overstuffed. You're like, you got it all in there. You're not going to need it all.
Yeah.
You're going on vacation for 2 days. You don't need every item of clothing you own, but
stock sticking out.
Yeah. Like good for you. You got it closed.
It's funny. I think even the reviews I've seen that were positive are very much echoing what I think what we're saying is very much like, well, I just appreciated that you tried this. And And it's not, and again, it's like, I had an interesting, if not a fun time in the theater. And yeah, I mean, I guess what definitely helps is that Jesse and Christian are good. You know, like the fact that like
That's true.
Oh, go ahead.
If the actors were bad,
Mm-hmm.
we might be having a completely different conversation right now.
Oh yeah.
But because they were so incredible, so fun to watch, so talented, I don't know, charismatic, all of the things.
Yeah.
I do think that helped level up the movie in a way that just made it all better to watch.
And they have chemistry, you know, which like that's a really integral thing for the kind of movie that she wanted to make. So the fact that they actually have legitimate chemistry and like, you know, I like the scenes of just them kind of talking, getting to know each other. I like the romantic stuff too, even. And like, even like the bits where you kind of go like, ooh, maybe Frankenstein's kind of pushing it, right? Where Frankie's pushing it, where there's this one scene where they're driving, and he's describing this fake proposal to her, and he mentions like, oh yeah, you loved oysters, and we know that we saw at the beginning of the film that Ida does not, and you can see the bride process that, going, really, you know, and you're like, uh-oh. Is this when shit's starting to crumble? Or are we going to start seeing everything fall apart right now? And that's interesting. The fact that like I caught that and I was like a little concerned. I went, uh-oh, Frankie, what did you do? You know? So showing like how like just their performances, like I got invested enough in them, even if I'm not sure if the story really works. You know,
it's an odd one. It's an odd one, but I think you can't deny that it is a remake. I think that is one of those things when we were talking about doing this episode, we were like, well, is it really gonna, map onto it? Is it really gonna feel like the remake? But having the Mary Shelley opener, like, is totally like
no, it justifies this. Yeah,
fully justifies it.
Yeah. No, and if anything, like revisiting the original Whales film and then seeing this only cements that like the impact that film still has, and the fact that like, down to the fact that while it's not the same kind of iconic look, they felt we have to give our bride a unique look, right, that sticks out, that makes it hers, but we have to do a similar thing. So her hair is in a unique style. The staining of her mouth is entirely her character, So we're doing things that like, but it's also all a reaction to how great Elsa looked
right
in the original film,
Totally. I mean, I absolutely think about that when it comes, especially to these monster remakes or just kind of horror films in general. I think a lot of the best ones and the ones that get remembered the most are the ones with an iconic character, like where you could dress up as them for Halloween and people instantly know who you are.
Yeah.
Whether that's a Gladys from Weapons,
right,
or Megan, right? And so the bride to me very much fits that. I can absolutely dress as the bride this Halloween and people will instantly know who I am. And I think that that's a great thing. They made a very iconic look in its own way.
And like I guarantee you, even if like the reaction to this movie's been mixed, and even we're kind of like, oh, it doesn't really work. I'm gonna see several people dressed up as this version of the character, and I do think this is gonna be someone's favorite version of the film. This is gonna be someone's favorite movie. And because of the fact that like it's such a weird swing, I can't help but go, yeah, someone's gonna say, I'm gonna die in this hill saying I love Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride 2026. And I will be like, I respect it. I absolutely
see that. Like, I do think that this is a movie that will get its cult following. People are gonna love it. 10 years from now, we're all gonna watch it at Hollywood Forever,
right,
or like some historic, LA theater for a screening. I do think it's that kind of movie for the very reason that it's not boring, that it does crazy stuff. It has, a lot of little funny moments that maybe felt clunky or awkward, but that I think, are going to be quotable over time. Not that I could quote any of them right now, but I don't think that this movie is just going to leave the public consciousness. And I'll always go to bat for films like this because, yeah, I think that people are going to watch this Bride and absolutely then they're going to say, well, what other Bride is out there? And they're going to go watch the original. The Bride of Frankenstein is on HBO Max right now, and I'm like the original, and I'm sure that's because this one's coming out.
100%. Also, I love that while Jessie is currently doing her Oscar, promotion for Hamnet. Again, she's incredible in Hamnet, so I get it. I love that while she's doing that for that film, in theaters right now, you could see her go wild in a completely different style, a completely different performance, while she's out there promoting her historical Shakespeare drama. Right tonight, we're recording on Oscar day, and she's probably, very good chance she's going to probably win it. But we're discussing her big swing of a performance of The Bride as opposed to the nuanced, beautiful performance she did in Hamnet. But she's really cool in this movie.
Do you think in her acceptance speech she'll promote The Bride? Watch in theaters?
I want to quickly thank Maggie Gyllenhaal for letting me have a gun.
So she did. I did see a little interview where she said they filmed The Bride before Hamnet.
Amazing.
And
really,
she was pregnant when they were filming the Mary Shelley sequences.
Oh.
And then she, the rest of the film. But the idea of she had said it like this, where it was like, doing The Bride first got her more in touch with like herself and her body and movement. So that and like she kind of said it like it allowed her to do like a more subdued, like personal, like emotional performance in Hamnet.
Wow.
I do think that is like that's the duality of being an actor, is that like sometimes you're doing like this huge performance and other times it's like very internal, but you express it through your every part of your body. I don't know. I think
so what you say?
Could thank Maggie Gyllenhaal up there
in The Bride tonight.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh, speaking of references, just to the original, I will say that I thought Jessie Buckley's movements, especially as she first awakens as the Bride, were very much like Elsa Lanchester's, where they were like sharp and jerky. I think Elsa said that she had been inspired by swans in the park when she like came up with those movements and that hiss.
Oh, that's cool.
And then of course we do get Mary Shelley in the jar,
right?
Just like the originals.
Oh man. So yeah, I don't know. It's a mess, but it's such a fascinating mess.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I can't hate it for being at least a fascinating mess. It's like, go you,
I think even with all of the references from across like cinema history, no one could ever accuse us of being nothing new.
Nothing New, a Remake podcast, is part of the Benview Network. To hear our other podcasts, visit BenviewNetwork.com.
And don't forget about our Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can gain access to bonus episodes.
Thanks for listening, and please follow us on Instagram @NothingNewPod.
Or watch our episodes and bonus content on YouTube.